live from Park City, Utah for the Sundance Film Festival 2025 edition. I am Zack Fox. That's Amanda the Jedi. That is Arturo Zurita. And this is the Intercut podcast channel where we're talking about the latest films out of Sundance. I've said Sundance twice already. It's because I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about Lurker, one of the movies that I think was our most anticipated. We shouted this out on our preview. Mm-hmm. It's been getting a lot of buzz. We arrived on the grounds here in Park City, and the volunteers told us immediately that they got to see the movie a little bit early, and they all seem to dig it.
So. Robert Redford got all the volunteers together and said, this is the one I want to show y'all. Maybe as a lesson, but also because they came out raving about it.
They did, but we did hear about some other movies they were shown that might have been a little bit not as good, but overall.
This isn't a review for those movies. It's a review for the one that we had so highly anticipated.
Yeah.
I think it delivered.
I think so too.
So Lurker is the story of a retail employee in Los Angeles who is able to sort of infiltrate the entourage of an up-and-coming music star. The retail employee is played by Theodore Pellerin, somebody who we know from another previous Sundance movie, and Never Rarely, Sometimes Always. The rising star is Archie Madekwe, somebody who I think we've been excited to see his career blossom between Saltburn and...
Where he got screwed over? In Saltburn?
Like as a character.
His character, of course. Need for Speed and, and his appearances in different... Ari Aster movies.
Where he also got screwed over?
Yeah.
So here's in Lurker.
Where he also got screwed over, but, you know.
But he is the best at this.
He's
and
so
the
good.
boy's got a voice.
Yeah.
He's got a voice.
So much so that we've been humming the music that we will not be getting for months.
Between love and obsession.
Might have to use those second tickets, but...
Maybe.
Overall, we got to catch this at the Eccles. It was one of the last final days of premieres.
Yeah, the
final
last...
Eccles premiere.
Exactly. The last premiere that they did at Eccles.
At the Eccles, yeah.
Was it not Train Dreams?
Train Dreams, second one.
Oh.
So that one got to close it, but this was one of the ones that was only in person, and it came with a lot of hype because the main guy had worked on The Bear.
Yes.
Worked on a lot of different
Alex
things.
Russell.
Alex Russell written and directed this movie,
Maybe it's a biopic. I don't know how far it goes. I just know he was way too authentic with what he was getting in this.
Yeah, well, the movie has a really natural depiction of sort of the indie scene around Los Angeles and these this sort of vibe of this rising star who has this aura around him.
Yeah.
And the film itself is really like this examination not just of like ambition and obsession, but the sort of intoxicating effect of being in the proximity of fame.
Yes.
I think we've all known that feeling of like there's a celebrity just walking down the street here at Sundance and you can't help but just like focus your gaze on them or just the feeling that's so
like
special.
when Dakota Johnson walked out on stage at TIFF once, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was her. I don't know what it was. I was like, oh my God.
Just floated all
A little
over.
bit. I was like ethereal.
But or even if you've just exchanged quick words with a celebrity, just that feeling of like, it's like the sun shining on you or something like that. There is that kind of like, that real like alluring aspect to it too. And here it's also combined with this idea of the entertainment industry and the indignities that people are put through in order to succeed and get themselves ahead in the entertainment industry, whether they are just starting out or even like on their way up. It is a very interesting movie. It is a messed up movie. It is a quite funny movie, and it's also really suspenseful and tense.
Yes.
Amanda, what was your big takeaway from Lurker?
Ooh, I loved it. I felt it was very authentic. I'm saying it a lot jokingly, but it's very true. When I was more in the gaming sphere, there was literally like people that would pull stunts like that. They would like wait around the hotel lobbies of like the bigger hotels closer to the venues.
Is that who's knocking?
No, that's that.
The poster.
But yes, it was. And like literally make instructional videos being like, unfollow them on all social medias. Just pretend to run into them and then be like, oh, I'm sorry, who are you? And they're talking to like Ninja. Or somebody of that like caliber, like Scump from Optic, like biggest people. And like people literally try to pull that stuff. And sometimes you can see through them and other times you can't.
Yeah.
And we're kind of seeing what happens when you can't see through the person who's playing you. But they also just so genuinely want to be a part of you and what you do. So I thought that was really interesting. I think they do a really good job showing the vulnerabilities of like multiple characters. So like the main guy, very sociopathic. He's doing stuff the whole movie. Like parts, it feels like Whiplash. There's literally a scene where it's like three creatives are being pit against each other by this artist for his entertainment. And it feels very much like that scene where he's just like, you up. And they're just like sweating and dying, trying to prove themselves to this one individual. And that's exactly what this movie feels like. It's all these different people trying to prove themselves to someone.
Exactly, because it is sort of focused on all these different members of the entourage, as well as, the Theodore Pellerin character who's trying to make his way in. And just the way that they all, in different levels of desperation, are fighting for their spot, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about like this friendship, but it's a lifestyle. It's a career for a lot of these people.
The career. It's the opportunities that come with it.
He's not just in retail. He's a hype beast.
He's a hype
specifically
beast,
has
yeah.
dads come in there, right, to be like, I don't know anything. You're supposed to show me what
It's a show on Melrose Avenue, a store on Melrose Avenue. So like we know that celebrities shop here. My kid wants something from the store. It doesn't
Something
matter
that he
what it
also
is.
mentioned about that, a lot of what you see on screen is gone now.
Yeah.
Because of the fire.
Yeah,
There's a
which
crazy
sucks.
aside to it. But
The
to
house
have that
is razed,
documented as he's also trying to become like the documentarian for the main dude, it's him trying to almost create a sort of taste because of what he's seen. He's like an amalgamation. I like how the story is almost kind of telling you always have these artists who do whatever the fans tell them to.
Yeah.
What happens when you have a fan
Yeah.
directly there, that close to their ear?
Yeah.
Fascinating psychological
very
thriller.
fascinating.
We were talking about Alex Russell also not just doing the Bear
Beef.
and Beef.
And directing some Zack Fox music videos. Zack Fox also in this movie and very funny.
Yes. Very
Zack
funny.
Fox is hilarious. He's a standout, without a doubt.
Stand there without your pants off.
Just staring into the camera, and he was
Gay
really
James,
good.
I insist on being called Gay Amanda now, please.
But Alex Russell, I was gonna go. Gant is not as funny as Gunkel.
Gunkel again. I know.
But that
They
is
get all the
still
good
there.
ones, Gunkel and Funkel.
They're all there, but this man also directed a lot of Brockhampton stuff. So that idea of, I thought Archie was going to be bigger. He's not there yet. You see him
Yeah.
in the venues, right? I don't know what it is in New York. This man was playing like an Aragon ballroom, right? He's
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
a whatever it would be for you all in
I
Canada.
think he's big, but still cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has that. He's big enough that
It's
the
not-
second
it's
he
not
got,
arenas.
he's big enough that the second that kid got followed by him, he got a flood of other people following
Yeah,
him.
which is another interesting aspect of the movie because it's not just about the fame of this character,
You
but
become famous by proximity.
what happens when you're in the proximity to it, and how like there are people who want to have their own in on this megastar and see you as that in.
Even I've seen that in the gaming community. It's like the most wild shit of people trying to work their way up the ladder. So it's I feel like it was really authentic. Like, yeah.
No, I mean, I think the thing is like the character motivations and actions all feel really true, even if they feel really like unsavory and kind of.
But it makes sense. You can totally
Discomforting.
see. Nothing
will
he does.
deny it.
Yeah.
But the guy said, I made this movie because we're all the Lurker at some
Yeah,
point or
at
another.
some
And everyone
point.
thinks that they're Archie.
Everybody wants to be.
Everybody
the
wants to be
but
Archie.
Everybody is.
That's like the first thing. If he's telling you
Yeah.
you're like the Lurker, you're like, no, I'm more like Archie. He goes, exactly what the Lurker would say.
Yeah,
a really
'cause
interesting-
I'm not a fan.
Exactly. There's a really interesting moment in this film when Theodore Pellerin's character is just very casually referred to as a fan, and he
Yeah.
takes offense to that because there is this sort of distinction between like, are you just
A peer and a fan.
right? Are you meant to be a colleague, or are you on the outside looking in on this? Are you just happy to be along for the ride? And if you feel like you legitimately deserve a place there, you're not just a fan.
Yeah.
And whether or not he is a fan is a really interesting thing that kind of
I think it's also fascinating.
He definitely
too,
is.
because it's used as a diss, but it's also not a diss
It's
to
not a
have
diss.
that. But it is
Yeah.
also a dangerous thing when you become an artist who's only focused on whatever your audience wants you to be. But then there's also that idea of it's playing with yes men. While this guy may be creepy, is there also a part of him that's giving him real advice to become that better artist, right? Everyone around me just thinks that I've hit the peak already. That was one of my favorites.
Yes.
But they don't realize there's still
so
much more. They're just
'Cause
there.
That was one of their first interactions. He's like, I think you're going to be the biggest artist in the world.
Right.
And he's like, they don't see that.
And it took the more psychopathic guy to have the ambition where everyone else was
have
comfortable.
the ambition.
There's several Tyler the Creator quotes that I think could go with this, specifically as we get into the music. Influences from Tyler as well. But most recently, Tyler's got that line, everyone wants what I got, but they do not got what it takes.
Yeah.
The movie.
Yeah.
The movie, easily. And then just talk about the music, specifically who they shouted out, and then also who we found out for that one jingle that we got stuck in our heads.
apparently.
Yeah, so like the credits roll by, and you see that every song that Oliver, Archie Madekwe's character, performs is produced by Kenny Beats.
Hell yeah.
Excellent producer, great hip hop producer,
Makes sense and it works.
artist in his own right. And then we were listening to some interviews, and you said Rex Orange County was one of the people who contributed
That
some
is,
stuff.
they said he wrote that song, and it is one of the bigger songs, and it's the one we keep quoting. The moment he said that, I was like, yeah, that makes complete sense.
So good.
It feels like an artist who would be kind of like bubbling up in the
Yeah.
in the scene.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've been humming it, so obviously it's an earworm in itself.
I'm obsessed with that song. I need it.
I think it's the best song, but do you think it's the best music so far out of the fest? Because Opus had some really good
Opus
producers.
ends on a banger, but that is already a song.
We also had some other that I'm blanking on.
Yeah, and speaking of Opus, both this movie and Opus featured music from Nile Rodgers, but
that
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Nile Rodgers.
But Nile was an actual producer on Opus with The Dream.
There's
The
a few-
Dream, like what?
Yeah.
Ballad of Wallace would be the other one where
Ballad-
the music
yes,
is
Ballad's
impeccable
so
in there.
good.
But it works for Lurker, especially when you
nailed
start
it.
dealing with like what the lyrics are saying,
Dude,
in
like,
terms
that's
of where the characters are. But
relatable shit.
just overall, some of the other actors in the Havana Rose Liu
Yeah,
plays
she
what
did
would be
good.
kind of not so much the manager, but the mom, the young mom.
She's like
of
the
group.
house manager. She's
Yeah.
the one to make sure that, he's getting where he needs to be when he needs to be there, keeping like the house in order. She's the one who's like, when he's there at that first show, it's all like, make yourself
Yeah.
useful. If you want to
Yeah.
stick
A
around,
different-
make yourself
Oh yeah,
useful.
that's true. Kind of gets them going.
a
Yeah.
kind of different look for her from what we've seen her in Bottoms, at
Bottoms,
least.
yeah.
Where she's like a lot chiller here, a lot more.
She's the one who's playing bottom straight, and it makes it funnier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Almost as good as her role in Afraid.
Oh, yeah.
AI aid.
Similar, though. Kind of similar.
But no, she was really solid in it. We also had Sunny Suljic,
Yeah, he did great.
mid-90s, looking more and more like, what's his name
Bo,
from Bo, since he was Bo
Joaquin.
Jr. But
Yeah,
I loved his aspect of it because he's the friend of
Yeah.
the Lurker.
Right.
The
The
one
friend of the
who,
Lurker.
kind of also wants to be in.
The one who's willing to say, oh, no, I am a fan of you.
Yeah, because he doesn't see it as a negative
He
thing. It
doesn't see it
really
as a
just all
negative
depends on
thing.
what perspective you're
Yeah.
coming at it. But no, overall, I thought it was a solid movie.
Yeah, bringing it to the ideas in the movie, it did remind me a bit of Ingrid Goes West and that whole idea of this like parasocial relationship
Yeah.
and trying to infiltrate that. And it doesn't go in necessarily the same places as Ingrid Goes West.
Ingrid
does.
is very much more the like, not I want to be you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's,
fascinating.
I want to, yeah.
It's a good cousin movie to
It's a
watch,
good
but
cousin
yeah.
movie, kind of similar to like A Different Man and Substance.
True.
They feel like cousin movies.
I heard Almost Famous name dropped.
I see
I
it, but
see parts
it's
of
just
it.
like
It's
this.
just-
It's
it's
A little
so
too
much
more
more
over
fucked
there,
up.
Yeah.
There's some other ones. as
Lurker
well.
is so much more fucked up. I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have a what's his name? He's about to make one with Leo.
PTA.
PTA, a
Oh, Paul
PTA
Thompson.
movie that I won't say. That this movie reminds me of also
Oh, yeah,
as well. But overall, I thought it was a solid effort from everyone involved. I love the way that it's filmed
Yeah.
because he uses not just 16 millimeter, I think, but then he's also
He's
doing the DV
doing
camera,
the
which is
DV
really funny
camera.
when one of the characters goes, "We cannot present something that's shot on film." But this one's.
I think it's pretty consistently funny throughout.
Yeah.
Like a lot of discomforting laughs, but just things that you recognize as very kind of authentic behavior. And
Yeah.
lots of cringeworthy stuff. But the way that it builds tension as well, I think, is really strong because, right from the get go, there's sort of this element that something is off with this guy, with
Yeah, of
this
course.
relationship. But just as you see the lengths he's willing to go to. It doesn't cross beyond a threshold of believability. It all kind of feels like set in the real world.
maybe too much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that would be an argument, but I like that it kind of it keeps its feet on the ground.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
me
thought that was a
too.
good aspect to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a really exciting movie. A lot of really interesting ideas. I think it's just been probably the most fun that I had watching a film here so far at the festival.
I'd
don't
say
know about
thrilling.
that. It's
Yeah,
definitely
Thrilling.
thrilling.
Entertaining.
I don't know. Maybe it's because like I've literally seen people do so much of this in real life that like none of it really caught me off guard until like
you know,
it
like when
kind of.
people say they want to be a part of the Sundance Airbnb condo?
Yeah, of
They
course.
just wanna
Yeah,
sleep in,
they just
bro.
want to sleep in.
You got the bunk beds.
You got the sure. I got the bunk beds, but
They sleep here, and then we record Intercut in the morning.
yeah,
There you go.
It is thrilling because I do think it ended up going in a direction I wasn't expecting. I think I was expecting just kind of a different. Once things hit the fan, I kind of expected a different reaction. So I actually like the direction it goes in and
was
what's
hoping it was going
done.
this way.
Me too. Yeah, me too. Once it started
I was like,
going,
let's go.
it's yeah.
There's a world in which it kind of ends in a more explosive manner, and I think it's smarter and a little bit more subversive.
We
too.
like it.
because
Do you think
it-
people have a problem with it?
I do, and I've seen
Yeah.
some reactions
Yeah.
to people who wanted maybe more of a third act twist.
And I think it's fair because he said they filmed a little bit more. So I think for us, we're satisfied with it, but I can see people going like, wait, that's it. I need to know a little bit more.
No, because I think it's actually so much smarter the direction it goes. I can see why people would be like, well, no, that's not a good message to put out there. And I'm like, it's not endorsing something that's happening here. It's just
Right.
pointing out that like,
Well, Whiplash,
This-
right? The same
yeah,
with
it's
people
Whiplash.
for getting a Whiplash wrong.
except,
So,
yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah.
and it's a little messy, you know, like
good.
it's
But life's
not
messy.
it's not a clean ending. It will leave you feeling maybe a little unresolved, but I think it's the right ending for this story.
I think
Will
so
it-
too.
Lurk
Yeah.
in your mind?
I think it will.
Yeah, I will.
think it
And I think it closes out. It's a great ending.
Yeah.
It is a good one. Shout out Lee Sung-jin. I had mentioned previous. He's one of the writers on this who had also worked on Beef with Alex Russell. He's doing Thunderbolts. If Thunderbolts is a fraction of
that
as
looks
authentic as this could be, it started to look good. And now,
Yeah, Thunderbolts is
seeing
the only
this,
one I've had
hey,
any
something might be
faith.
happening here. The boys may be fixing Marvel, Zach.
Maybe. Let's go.
There's a perfect way to lurk into the big MCU. But overall, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
cast, great music. One of the ones to look out for out of Sundance.
It met my expectation.
We're midway through. It's in my top 3. I think it's
Yeah, certainly in my top 3. And I think this is also like, sometimes we see these movies here that we love and we think are beautiful, but aren't necessarily the easiest to recommend to people.
And this is easy to recommend.
Yeah, very easy to recommend. It's thrilling, it's entertaining, it's funny, and I think it's about some ideas that people can really relate to.
Yeah.
So, definitely worth checking out. And I guess until next time, what's the difference between love and obsession?
Da, 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 da.